Chiefs bring back a familiar face in the backfield, but what does that mean for Kareem Hunt in Kansas City? Part 2 coming up today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. Chiefs Kingdom around the world. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. Get out there, and right now, through the 22nd, clock is ticking, folks. FanDuel customers can get a $5 bet will earn you a 3-week free trial of Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. At FanDuel.com to get started. We are getting started with what feels like coming back around full circle. Chiefs signed somebody that you guys know and a lot of you love. We're going to get to what the factors are with Matt Derrick. Here of Chiefs Digest, the man, the guy, the legend inside the locker room and giving us the insight at ChiefsDigest.com and Chiefs Digest here on YouTube. We are going to get there. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, and RGR Football. Please check out all the other outlets for both of us because we got a lot going on and we want you to see it. Check out another Locked On show for your next one. Thanks for making us your first listen today here in the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Like, sub, hit the bell here on YouTube, go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, get it all everywhere 5 days a week for free and then some, because you can always get us on the text line. It is free every day. There's something free flowing. There's information coming out at 816-357-8781. Okay, so we need to find out what the X factors are going to be this coming week against the Falcons. That's coming up later in the show. The producers that really stood out upon further review for Matt against the Bengals, that's coming up next. But we start with news of the day, as it always is. Folks have been pining for Kareem Hunt since he sort of turned his life around. Chiefs got themselves in a sticky situation with the running back room and elected to sign Kareem Hunt today to the practice squad. This is not to the 53, Matt. This would take an elevation to see him on the field. I expect there's going to be a delay. It is going to be somebody else that we already know getting elevated. Or do you see something different? What does this signing mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I think it's a signing for less immediate short term but maybe the medium to longer term, because you're right. I mean, Kareem Hunt hasn't been in a training camp. He hasn't been playing football since January. So there's going to be a amount of time to get him to knock off the rust and get him back into football shape. So, yeah, it's going to be Carson Steele, be Samaje Perine. I expect that if the Chiefs don't sign Keontae Ingram to the 53, then at least they're going to use some practice squad elevations on him. Although with adding Hunt and bringing back Peyton Hendershot to the practice squad, I'm expecting that probably they will go ahead and sign Keontae Ingram to the 53 just to free up some space there. But I think you're looking at a running back by committee going forward in the short term. Give Kareem at least a couple of weeks to knock the rust off and get ready. But I think it's interesting to me because I think that the Chiefs are obviously protecting themselves medium to long term. They know that Isaiah Pacheco is going to be out for a little while. He might be out longer than we know and what has been, really discussed, because Chiefs haven't put a timetable on it yet. But this is an injury that, depending on whether or not it requires surgery and anything that goes on, 6 to 8 is optimistic. 8 to 12 might be more realistic, depending on just whether or not there is any other damage and whether there is surgery required. And, I don't expect that we'll probably find it out for sure until Wednesday. But, that's what does Kareem bring to the table? Well, this is not your father's Kareem Hunt. This isn't the Kareem Hunt that you remember from 17 and 18. He's a bigger guy. He's 29. I say bigger. I mean, we'll find out when he gets to town and we get to see him. The last time we saw him on a football field, the last few seasons, he's been bigger than he was back in the old days, and less of, an all-around, all-purpose back and more of a short yardage power back. To me, I think Carson Steele is a poor man's Kareem Hunt. Isaiah Pacheco is kind of in that vein. I mean, I think this is the Chiefs doubling down on their run game. This isn't a new element. This, Kareem is not bringing, a speed dimension like a Matt Breida would have, or, maybe some other, speed dimensional backs. Not a third down back like Samaje Perine is. So, he's not, duplicating that. But I do feel like that, between Pacheco, Steele, and Kareem, you're talking about three guys who are, very similar in their skill sets. And, especially like I said, because Kareem is not the guy that you remember. I mean, it's been a few years. He's never had 1,000-yard season since his rookie year. His average per carry has gone down the last couple of seasons. I mean, the last time that he was a 4 yards a carry kind of back was 2021. So, that to me, I mean, it tells you that there's some question marks about how much is left in the tank. It tells you a little bit about just where he is as a back, but I don't know. I mean, we're going to find out. Chiefs will find out. Clearly, they felt that he was healthy enough to sign and clearly met the whatever yardstick that Clark Hunt had for bringing back Kareem to the organization.
A couple of other things that it tells me is, as you mentioned, Breida was another one. Jet McKinnon is either not able or not willing to play, and passing on some of the speed type backs. They definitely are sticking with their type this season, the power back that can survive contact, as they know they're not going to get huge gaping holes. They're not going to get around the edge. Everybody's crashing down on them. So they want bigger bodies. It also tells me that there's a little bit more ability to plug and play here. And that I feel like, as you said, a poor man's Kareem Hunt. I think Carson Steele is set up to be a feature back, at least on first and second down here for the next 3-4 weeks. And then maybe we'll see some attrition or some change. But it's going to be a two-headed monster with him and Samaje Perine. Do you see something different?
No, I think this is definitely going to be a running back by committee approach. And we'll see how much even, Keontae Ingram in the short term and then Kareem in the long term fits in. But, if I'm not mistaken, on top of my head here, I think that Samaje Perine and Carson Steele in their Chiefs careers have 36 snaps combined in 2 games. So, are either one of those guys prepared for 20, touches a game? No, I mean, at this point, you don't know what they've got. And, and that was Andy Reid's point on Monday talking with us, was just that, hey, they've got confidence in those guys, but they don't know. They don't know what they are as a feature back. So I think you're definitely looking at a committee approach. I mean, you already know that even with Carson Steele and Samaje Perine, I mean, there's going to be separate roles. Steele is your first and second down guy. Perine's more of your third down guy. Add Ingram to the mix, and he will probably in the short term at least get a couple of drives. Wouldn't be a surprise if Perine gets, a couple of drives. I don't think they're looking at any of these players right now. And even when Kareem gets back, I don't think they're even looking at Kareem necessarily as a 20 touch, back per game. So I think you're definitely looking at a running back by committee. It's just that everybody's going to have some certain roles. I mean, Steele is probably going to be your all-purpose back. Samaje is going to be your third down back. Kareem will be at least a short yardage back. Maybe there'll be some intermixing, but I think you're gonna see some pretty defined roles and definitely a rotation and committee approach.
I think it is yet to be seen how it all comes together, but we are going to get that glimpse here coming up in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, we have to double down on what works. And that means who was able to produce, who stood out against the Bengals. That's coming up next after this. You got to make game day special, and that comes down to having the things that you want for your experience delivered with DoorDash. For me, it's about setting up the game, having light snacks so that I can concentrate, take my notes, and understand what's going on in the ball game, have the right drink to stay upright and going as well, and then a light snack at halftime so I can still get you content and make all the adjustments for the second half so that we can be ready to go live post-game with you. And it all comes back to having the right ingredients in the right spot from the right vendors so you can get your favorites delivered with DoorDash. Use the promo code LOCKEDFALL24. You get 50% up to a $10 value when you spend $15 plus on your first order. It's a limited time offer and terms do apply, but the promo is not valid with orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app right now, and you can make that order for your game day favorites. You must be 21 plus in order to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol available only in select markets. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now they have a chance for you to do exactly what I do every single week. They have something a little bit different for you right now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube-based plan account, all you got to do is watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game, no problem. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. I love it when a plan comes together, and some guys took some steps forward against the Bengals. Some guys didn't quite get there. But I've gone back over the film. I know you've been discussing, and now having heard from Andy and getting ready for the next week, on further review, who stood out to you as the producers we need to double down on for this upcoming game against the Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably the guy who had the best game as far as just across the board, probably Chamarri Connor. Really looking back on it, he had a couple of obviously huge plays. The fumble recovery for the touchdown, the sack on the blitz. My only even quibble on the sack was that if Burrow had been paying attention, he would have seen it coming, because Chamarri kind of gave it away a little bit as far as sneaking in, but he probably also did a pretty good job as far as, waiting until Burrow was looking away before he kind of started sneaking up to the line a little bit. But that was my only quibble with it. Other than that, I mean, the Bengals weren't ready for it. They weren't expecting it. Comes through untouched and makes the play. Those are two huge plays. Without either one of them, the Chiefs don't win that game. And I think defensively, obviously, Chris Jones had another huge game. We talked about that on Sunday post game. Chris Jones has been Chris Jones. I mean, even the numbers and the production maybe isn't standing out quite yet, but Chris has had a couple of plays in both these games that he's just absolutely totally destroyed. And, it's once again, I mean, with Chris Jones, it's moments. I mean, he's going to give you moments. The only, I think, concern is that once again, the Chiefs only went into that game on Sunday with 8 defensive linemen, and the rotation is very, very thin up front. I mean, they need more depth. They might be able to get away with 8 later in the season, but even then I'd be concerned about it. But right now, having 8 guys in 80-degree weather at Arrowhead, I think is a stress. I mean, they were definitely gassed in week 1 against Baltimore, playing 80 snaps. Didn't have as much of a workload against the Bengals, but I think you saw the attrition. And when you've got some older guys like Chris and Mike Pennell, I mean, you need more depth there. So if Cam Thomas and Marlon Tuipulotu are not ready to go yet, you need to get them ready, because you need to get some snaps out of these guys.
Yeah, I completely agree. On the other side, I think it does help towards the run game that we talked about in the first segment here, because the top 3 graded players on the offensive side were the 3 interior offensive linemen. And Joe Thuney doesn't look like he skipped a beat. I've been worried for quite a while, but he, together with Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey, really doing the best that they can do at that point against a front that was rotating some guys through. I think a little bit superior to what they're going to face this next week. But does that give you an idea that really running behind them, using them, whether it's in the screen game, the run game, is really what they're going to have to do in this next contest, try to lock down what this team is becoming here in the first quarter of the season?
I mean, what is the strength of this offense? I mean, I think you'd absolutely say it's the interior of that offensive line. So yeah, I mean, you've got to try and ride that as much as you possibly can. And you know what? I mean, some of the protection that you're going to give your left tackle, whomever it may be against the Falcons, and don't have a good read yet on whether it will be Suamataia or they're going to give him a break and have Wanya Morris start in that place. Maybe we'll find out, later on Wednesday for sure. But either way, I mean, I think that you've got to, be thinking about just how you can use Joe Thuney to help out your left tackle a little bit. I mean, you're going to need to be probably using a tight end and even a running back to help out somehow to give your left tackle a little bit of a break. But that's why those 3 guys are your 3 guys. I mean, you've got to find a way to get them involved and really ride them. And you're right. I mean, this is a couple of games now. I think that the Chiefs, best run aspects has been definitely running just straight up the middle. I mean, getting away from it a little bit against the Bengals, I think, was one of the offensive mistakes that they made on Sunday. If gashing up the middle is working, stick with it until they stop it. And I think that the Chiefs had a little bit of a tendency in both of these games to get away from some of the ground aspects that were working. And, I think it hurt them. I think it's especially against the Bengals. Also want to the best receiver on the field for the second game in a row, regardless of Xavier Worthy's great performance in week 1, was Rashee Rice. And that's the other part of it. If you're going to try and get anybody going, that's the guy that you want to get going week in and week out. Because if you can get Rashee, I think a couple of receptions early, it's going to open up things for others, not just Xavier Worthy, but also Travis Kelce too, who is another guy that you want to get going.
I completely agree with you. And you got to double down on what's working. I'm looking for what those X factors become and what does change. In particular, I want to know who's going to step up at the wide receiver spot. I have my idea. We're going to get to Matt's after this. Getting your tickets to Arrowhead just got easier. Whether you're looking for that week 1 against the Ravens, week 2 against the Bengals, or even week 5 when they come back in October for the New Orleans Saints. They have a new feature at Gametime called Gametime Picks. And it takes all the guesswork out of getting your tickets. It makes it easier to filter out the fluff and get the incredible deals on seats that you don't want to waste time searching for through those thousands of tickets. Get Gametime Picks. The curation makes it easy to get all the sports, concerts, comedy, and theater, anything that you're looking for. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create the account, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off of your first ticket purchase at Gametime. It's last-minute tickets. It is lowest prices, and it's always guaranteed. Folks, make sure you like and sub to this channel right here that you're watching this on right now. Even if it's embedded in a web page, you can still subscribe to the channel. Make sure you get out to Chiefs Digest here on YouTube as well and on Matt's site at chiefsdigest.com. I want to get to all of this, Matt, because I'm starting to get to the point where X factors are more important to me because they have to make up for other things. I want to start at the wide receiver spot. Who else can help out? Because as you said, good first week for Xavier Worthy, didn't get as much usage. One guy stepped up in particular, but it all stems off of the point they didn't get Travis Kelce going. They got Rashee Rice going. That's fine. But does this defense, one that does feature Jesse Bates, but will not necessarily be able to constantly double Travis Kelce, does this change the script here this week?
You know what? I'm not sure that it does because, you look at this Falcons defense and they've certainly added some names. They've added some really nice pieces. They can do a lot of things consistently. They've got some guys like Jesse Bates on the back end. They can go after the quarterback. Matt Judon's a great addition. But I'm not sure that the Falcons defense has the speed to be able to keep up with the Chiefs offense. So you've got to take advantage of that a little bit. But, you also look at, who are the most productive players against the Falcons in the last couple of weeks? And, George Pickens and Devontae Smith had the best days of anybody. And, so what does that look like on the Chiefs side? To me, that's, once again, it's Rashee Rice. That's the guy that if you can get Rashee going a little bit early, and I get, the Chiefs with the idea that, hey, maybe you want to get Travis going, maybe you want to get Xavier going. There's an advantage there. But I feel like that right now, Rashee is the guy that can open up everything else. If you get teams worried about him, it's going to make things easier for Travis, and it's going to make things easier for Xavier. If you can just get, Rashee kind of up. And, and I keep thinking about, certainly rewatching the Bengals game and looking at it, one play can make a huge difference, Ryan. And to me, the catch that Kelce had that gets wiped out by the Wanya Morris penalty would have really changed things. If that goes into the stat book, we're talking about Travis Kelce in a completely different way, because now at least he's got a couple of catches and some big yardage, looks completely different than the 1 for 5 that he ended up with. So, it goes to show you, even a small sample size in the first 2 games of the season, one play that gets wiped out for a penalty can really change the way you're thinking about a player. I expect that the Falcons, they're going to be doing what everybody does every week. You give Travis a lot of attention. That means that Rashee Rice should be seeing one-on-one matchups. And through the first couple of games, I think the Falcons defense has shown that they don't have a matchup they don't have anything that can really compete with a bigger receiver like Rashid.
I think the X factor for me on their defensive side is the fact that they have former Bronco Justin Simmons on the roster now. One that I think understands what Rashid Rice can do. So for me, it's about taking away his experience advantage by throwing things at him that are Xavier worthy, that he does not have the speed to compete with. And quite frankly, the guy that stepped up last week that I think is under the radar right now, Justin Watson is putting in quality snaps and making quality catches. They're not super prevalent, but they are moving the chains and helping out the offense. Can those two be used in combination some way to attack the safety layer of that Atlanta defense?
Yeah, and I think you're really, I mean, that's how you attack this Falcons defense. I mean, how do you do it? I mean, to me, if you're talking about this in boxing parlance, the Falcons, I don't think are a defense you just go out there and you try and, get the knockout punch in the first 13 seconds and just throw a haymaker or something. This is a team that you can pick apart and you can just set them up. I mean, it's going to be a little jabs here and there, and then you can be able to take the shots deep. And that's why, I mean, to me, this is a team effort. I mean, if you're able to run the ball effectively a little bit, if you're able to get Rashid Rice going, get Travis going, then attack Xavier over the top. I mean, this is a defense that should be a very bad matchup for the Chiefs offense. They should be able to take their time, take their shots, take their opportunities. I mean, if the Falcons give the Chiefs offense fits, then I think you've got a reasonable, reason to worry. And I say that even though the Falcons pass defense has played really well the first couple of weeks, but I'm just not sure how much they've been challenged because Justin Fields is Justin Fields. I don't know how much we really know about this Falcons defense. I think they're still a little unproven. We're going to find out a lot Sunday night because I think the Chiefs are going to be their first real big test.
I agree completely. It is on to future casting. And before we get to your game prediction, I do want to ask you, folks, this is the day off as we record this. No practice yet this week. We don't know anything. But Matt, if you have your crystal ball, is it Kingsley Suamataia or is it Wanya Morris that starts for this team against the Falcons?
I mean, I think it will be Kingsley Suamataia. There's some conjecture that maybe they will give Kingsley a week off and let Wanya start this week. I'm not sure that Kingsley needs that. Certainly you look at like last year when the Chiefs did the exact same thing with Jawan Taylor. They pulled him out of that game in week 2 against Jacksonville when the penalties were piling up. Came back and started in the next week and never left again. I think you're probably seeing the same thing here with Kingsley. I could certainly see them maybe just going ahead and give him a week off. We'll see. I don't think he necessarily needs it. But especially because you look at it, I mean, Kingsley needs to get back out there because, really the toughest thing I think he's having a hard time with right now is just, a couple of, the individual matchups. And the problem is that, the Chiefs schedule, they've got plenty of elite pass rushers. So it's not like you can just, hey, give Kingsley some time off until, they don't face an elite pass rusher. That's not an option. I mean, you're going to have to get him back out there. I'm sure there's a couple of things that they will try and work with him technique wise. To change things. I'm sure that they will probably change things as far as trying to give him more support, whether it's keeping a tight end to chip a little bit. We'll see. But my gut, without anything, like you said, without practice or talking to anybody and inside the building yet this week, I would give the slight edge to Suamataia, but I wouldn't rule out one day starting either.
I agree with you. I would start Kingsley and be done with it. So that said, how does your game prediction look this week for the Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think this is what I would call a get well game, but it feels a little bit like that because of just how the Chiefs offense played against the Bengals. I mean, that was an ugly game. And if you're the Chiefs, I think you'd like to be able to say, hey, out of your first 3 games of the season, your offense looked like your offense in at least 2 of them. I mean, this is to me, it's a game that, I mean, if you're the Chiefs, you can't go out and look like what the Steelers put up and what the Eagles put up. You've got to have Mahomes be Mahomes and have this offense do what it wants to do and dictate terms. And defensively, I think, hey, the Falcons can do some things. Bijan Robinson's, is a scary back. And I'm just, and if you're the Chiefs, you absolutely have to clean up the problems that you've had against guarding tight ends and in the middle of the field. So if the Chiefs can do that, hey, they can have a good week. I am not going to, after last week's fiasco, Ryan, I am not picking the Chiefs to blow out anybody until they get it done. So, not a close game, but I am taking the Chiefs in a one-score game, 27-20.
I like it. Folks, you'll hear my prediction along with Chris's on the Friday preview show as we lay it all out, everything that they need to accomplish. Matt, thanks for catching us up. Enjoy this week, and thanks for being here.
Hey, anytime, Ryan. Thanks for putting up with all my nonsense.
It's always a good time, and there's a lot going on in Chiefs Kingdom, folks. Have a great day. We appreciate you being with us. Check out Chiefs Digest and everything that Matt does. Like, sub, hit the bell here. Check out RGR Football, NFL 33, and KC Chiefs Corner. Thanks for listening today, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.